that are in the course, you're going to be in there anyway, just because you're in the course. But we're going to talk about not just how you can use AI, but integrating it into your workflows and processes, which I know we've talked about a lot of the theme for 2025. At first, it was like exploration of AI and what can it do, but now it's like, okay, we have all these blogs or we have all these whatever. What do we do now? And how can we get it to work automated for us? So we do have that coming up next week. And again, the link is in the chat. So feel free to send that to anybody you know that might be interested. One of the things we saw this week was Spotify's collaboration with 11 Labs. And we haven't gotten to video in this round of the course yet, but 11 Labs is an audio AI. So what they're doing with Spotify now is allowing writers to upload their audiobooks directly to them, and then they'll review it, and then they'll put it out onto their list. But they'll be using AI to narrate it, not them themselves. And I don't know if any of you have ever used 11 Labs before. We will tell you about it in that section of the course, but they've got some really cool things you can do not only with your own voice, but using other voices. Um, I don't know about how many people, I mean, it seems like audiobooks are on the rise anyway and have been for a while, podcast, audiobooks, all of that. So I imagine this is going to be pretty interesting to see. And I also am wondering now how Spotify already has some AI working in what they suggest in your playlist, if the audiobook area is going to become part of that. Like, here's some books you might like, or, so for me, that's what I thought of the first thing when I saw it. But we'll see what happens. So just keeps getting more and more customized, I guess, for each of us. So when you actually do go on there and suggested for you, should actually be something you would want to look at, not just something that happened to be popular or featured that week. The next thing we saw is there's a college in London, and there was a professor there who had been working on trying to figure out why these certain, it was a virus or a superbug, sorry, why it was resistant to antibiotics. And so he put in all this research into AI, and when within 2 days he was able to figure something out just because he used AI to compare all the information to analyze. And that's one of the things that AI is really good about. Google made him a tool, or has a tool called co-scientists. So in the same way that we call them agents or GPTs, whatever you want to call it, Google was assisting them in creating a co-scientist that could help with the research. So that's a really good example of using AI as your assistant and speeding things up in that medical area. I've seen, I mean, I'm sure you guys all have seen a ton of different things happening in the medical world, like being able to read MRIs or X-rays or testing and just finding things sooner, or you don't have to wait for someone to look at it. You can put it through AI that's taught and to notice certain things, and these things can happen a lot faster. So that's one thing that happened this week we thought was really cool. I'm like, hey, maybe they can figure out that the dreaded C word, and we can all move forward with our lives. And then we talk about AI agents again in 2025. Like I said, it's about getting the agents to work for you. So ChatGPT has operator. Can't remember the name of what Gemini is doing now, but these are the next level of the agents working without you going to it and telling it to work. So that's that next era of workflow and processes. Um, and then Claude released 3.7 Sonnet this week, and I've been using it, and so far I really like it. They had some bug fixes, some, of course, feature building. Um, I think it's faster than 3 was, or 3.5. But we'll see, because it's just been out for a little while, and ChatGPT has 5 now, and so just like we do in class, we will compare and see what does 3.7 do now that the last version didn't do. And then we had a CRM tip of the week. And of course, we're using something called OS. And what we love about it is the KPIs, tracking KPIs and creating specific dashboards. So not only with your social, but your leads to conversions and sales. You could also, if you have customer service, see how many calls people are handling, how many yeses they get, how many no's. Like you can track all these different things. So it just really makes tracking KPIs easy. And there's a video featured on the website from Emma, who's our ops person, where she walks you through some of that and what it looks like in our system. And then last week, we talked with Dawn Ho about AI in the law. So we went over the privacy policy or the AI policy. There's a template available there. Of course, we recommend that you have your own lawyer look at it because source of truth, right? We don't want to just take what AI gives us and go out there with it. So I would always get it recommended or looked over from a lawyer. But there's a policy there for you if you haven't done that already. And then some of the tools we use this week, Opus clips we are using all the time. We take long form video and make short. Usually we're using them for the vertical with the text that has the big outline around it that you see usually on social media. What I like about Opus though is it will actually grade your videos. So it'll tell you, okay, this is an 85 and this is the reason why. It doesn't have a hook in the beginning or it gives you all the reasons why. So it actually allows you to go in there and edit and make your videos better. So usually what we do is we start with the ones that are in like, 98 or whatever. But if the other ones are good and we want to use them, then we can see the items on there. We can change it to improve it. So there's some really cool tools there. There's a link, of course, to our CRM and then Canva. Um, I have a degree in graphic design and Canva for me in the beginning, it was really hard for me to go to that being trained on Adobe and all the things. It felt like I wasn't like I was taking the easy way or something. I don't know. But I think so many people are using these things now. Like Canva is everywhere. Like there's commercials on TV for it. And not that that means something, but like to me, like most of these AI tools we never see on TV, right? Like it just doesn't happen. Well, Canva is everywhere and they just have made design really accessible to people who maybe aren't trained in that area. And even for those of us who are, it makes it really easy to share things and for your clients to be able to make edits to it because that's the biggest thing. When I was using Adobe, whether it was Photoshop or Illustrator, my clients didn't have the same version or they didn't have it at all, so they couldn't make changes to the document. So they are always sort of tethered to you. And that's not really what we want. I mean, that's kind of the old way of thinking about clients, and they have to need you in order for you to be successful, right? But that's not where we're at now. So Canva, of course, we use it all the time. I just used it right before this to cut video. It makes that really easy too. So just know it's there for a lot of things and can make your job much faster, which I think we all want. So that's the news for this week. Um, we have a special little project I was working on. So Candy, thank you for volunteering so we could use you as our example. Candy is a customer success manager and I want to open up your email so I can. She conducts they have courses which have assignments and something called knowledge checks that are different. They have time frames. So they're looking at not only the employees, but the different branches and who's completing it, who's not, how long it's taking them. Are they engaged with it? Are they, there's all of these factors that they're looking at. And as a customer success person, and I'm speaking for you, Candy, but so stop me at any time. But the it she wants to get some insights into this. So there's insights she already knows she wants. And then there's insights maybe that AI can give us. So when we're creating agents or even just having a regular chat in ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or wherever, sometimes at the bottom, you'll see those suggested questions like to keep going. And that's the kind of thing we want to do in this case is like, well, what is it that I should be looking at that I don't know I should be looking at? And AI can tell us that just by asking it to tell us the things maybe we're not noticing, or as a customer success person, what should I be looking for in this data? Can you tell me anything else? So, with that, it's okay if I share screen and show your email, Candy.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, just want to make sure there's no nothing in it, but I just want to
No,
make
no,
sure
I've
that's
taken
okay.
everything out of it that could be, you know,
Okay.
a, a
I just want
concern.
to show everybody where I started. So this is the email that I got from Candy, and this is all that I know about what Candy is doing. I know she's a customer success person, and I know a little bit about the context I have is this. So how I began was I just copied all of this, and I actually started with a gem. So I came in here and I've already made this gem. But if I hadn't made the gem already, I would go to Gem Manager down here and I would plus new gem. So I gave it a name, doesn't matter what you do. And I put in, of course, it didn't copy. I copied and pasted in her original email because it had a lot of details in it. And I am not doing what Candy's doing, so I don't know. So I wanted to start with exactly what she told me. So then I came in here and sort of started organizing it and then changing it to instructions instead of just what this email was. I'm going to go back to the one I actually created so I can show you what the directions became.
Andrea, I just have a quick question. Do
Yeah,
we need to have the paid version of Gemini to accomplish this?
you have to have um you have to have the paid to have advanced, I believe. And advanced is the what we found out today was you can share the gems within your workspace if you
Right.
have advanced.
I didn't want to recommend it to a client unless I know the cost.
Yeah, I I'm
I
not
don't
sure
need to know
you
the
can make
cost now.
gems without with the free one. Maybe Marakar, can you take a look at that? It's hard to keep up with all of them. So we'll take a look at that. You may or may not be able to. And again, they just put out Gemini Advance, which now has access to the internet and it allows you to share gems within your workspace. So Candy, for you, if you build this in Skillful, then you'll be able to share it with anybody in Skillful. Outside of that, you won't be able to, but that's the whole point, really, of creating a workspace and all of these is to keep it safe inside your company, inside your workspace. So here's the instructions I came up with. You are a customer success manager and you want to track assignments and completions. You're looking at both the entire assignment and knowledge checks. And this is all what I got from looking at your email. Provide stats and visual data for each item. And then assign completion details. Oh, assignment completion details will be uploaded for an assignment open to learners for 1 calendar month. An assignment is a combination of lessons and a knowledge check. Not every location is required. Every location is required to take the knowledge check. So then it's all about what information we're pulling out. So I asked you to analyze the data to create graphs to report on both assignment and knowledge checks. And in my first version, I really just copied and pasted your email and just to see what I would get. And that lets me know how I need to edit it later.
And Andrea, is there a reason that you chose Gemini as your, uh,
I I chose Gemini because of the context window
okay,
for the data and because it syncs with Google Sheets. It's if you're using a Google environment, then that would work really well.
okay.
Mostly because of the amount of data. You didn't send us a huge chunk, but you said it was a huge chunk. And for me, I thought, well, Gemini probably could handle it the best. And that's
Okay.
why I started with Gemini.
Okay.
But you will see that I also did it in ChatGPT because I wanted to see what the difference was.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and the good part is once you have instructions for one, you can basically use the same exact instructions in the other.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I've got it broken down by group, company, role, manager, and lucky for me, Candy gave me all this information, so I didn't have to figure that out. If you already know what you want it to look like, or if you have a report that how you usually format it, you could also put that in there as knowledge and say the output should be formatted like this and give a sample of what you want it to look like, which is also a really great thing. But on this one, we just went straight with data and a little bit of direction because I wanted to see what kind of information we would get. I asked it at the end to provide any additional insights and recommendations that a customer success person would want to know and ask follow-up questions to provide action items for suggestions. Because what I found was it gave me everything I needed, but it just like stopped there. And you can continue to ask questions, but my goal with this is to do the least amount up front and get you the result you want. So I'll show you exactly how it works. We're going to a new chat. We're going to use the gem. All I have to do is upload this file and say go. And I hit enter, and this is what it does. So it'll take a little while because even though it's not a huge amount of data, there's a lot of columns, a lot of rows, a lot of thinking that it's going to need to do. And I did ask it for visual. So it will give us sometimes bar graphs, sometimes percentages in the copy. It really just depends on the mood it's in. That's why it's so good. If you have an example of a report you might need, then you can feed that as knowledge and let it know, hey, this is what the results should look like.
And is there a place for you to provide like branded colors and whatnot so you can tell it like the colors that you want in the output of the visuals?
I don't know if you can do that yet with gems,
Yeah.
but it does export directly into sheets where
Okay.
you could have your branding already done. If you had knowledge in there that had your colors, that might work. That's what I would try.
Yeah. Okay.
It may not be able to understand what you're trying to tell it with that, but it's a good place to start to test it.
Yeah.
So it did give some completion rates, the companies, what their completion rates were. And
Mine's
this,
all 100. That's interesting.
yeah, I don't know. Let me go through. And which is totally different than the one I did earlier. So that's the other part of it. So in this one, I got a really good result, I thought. I mean,
Uh,
I don't know what this information is really, but it really seemed to go through. This gave every single manager and how much they had completed, which wasn't all 100%.
yeah.
But you have a lot of managers, so it did a pretty big chart there.
Yeah.
Also did by like the role of the people,
Yeah.
which I really liked this one. And then overall assignment completion rate by company, which weren't all 100, and you could see that
Yeah.
there. And then by group. So Southwest, Southeast, Northeast, all those things. And then this one was the number of assignments added per day of the month. So it looked like you just uploaded all the assignments on one day, which is fine. And I don't even know if you need this information, but hey, here's some information for you. And then it goes into explaining some of it. High overall completion rates for both assignments and knowledge checks suggests that learners are engaged and motivate to complete the assignments. Timely completion, knowledge check focused, short average time spent. So the assignments are taking them less than 10 minutes. So in your mind, if you were thinking the assignments were 5, that bit of information will give you, oh, it's taking them almost 10. Or maybe you thought it was 15 and it's only 10. That type of information is really good insights.
Yeah.
It gives some information on gathering feedback. I did get some follow-up questions. So if any of these, I looked at this and I thought, oh, interesting. I could just copy this and put
Mm-hmm.
it into the prompt and then keep it going from there. And that's the point of the follow-up questions. But
Yeah.
I do like the insights it was giving.
Do you do anything to just make sure that it understands the data that you're like, do you do any kind of clarifying
You
questions
can.
at the
You
beginning?
can
Okay.
say the column labeled this is for this, and the row that's this is this. You can go through and explain that kind of thing because when I was testing it, it didn't work the first time because it didn't understand the data. And
Yeah.
what had happened was at one point I sorted a column so the headings weren't at the top anymore. So it didn't know that. So I
Uh,
actually re-downloaded it with the headings at the top and re-uploaded it, and then it
yeah.
knew what I was talking about. So as long as your instructions are talking the same language as your data. So
Yeah.
in that case, what I would say is make your instructions talk about how the columns are labeled. Like
Mm-hmm.
if it's called knowledge check completion, that's what you should call it in your instructions. If it's
Right.
called customer ID, then it should be called that in the instructions. Like
Got it.
just helps it, but it understood all of this just by the data itself,
Right. Okay.
which I thought was really good. So then, of course, I wanted to see how it would perform in ChatGPT. So let me share that screen. And so for this one, oh, not new chat. Let me go here. Don't be frozen on me. I just come to edit. Of course, if you're creating a new one, you would go to new, but all I did was copy and paste the instructions into here.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally all I did. I did turn on code interpreter and data analysis
Okay.
because we
I was
are
gonna ask about that.
uploading a
Yeah.
file. I could turn off image generation. I just left those things on. I just wanted to make sure that this particularly was on. So I took that and I just went, did the same exact thing here, and I took the file. And on this one, I don't think you have to say go. On Gemini, I had to put something in the box. Um, it won't show you a visual display of the data you upload, and that's fine. Like, who really needs to see that anyway? You've
Yeah.
probably already been looking at it for a long time. Um, and it takes a little while for this one. I think I did this. I'll have to look when it's over which model I used for this one, but I think it was the newer 3.0 mini. So it gave a little bit different of representation in the charts. It gave these really long, like instead of percentages, it just gave, look at this decimal point has like, I don't even know how many there.
Is that based on the format of the data in the original
It
uh,
could be.
upload?
I
Okay.
I didn't spend a lot of time in your data,
Mhm.
to be honest, because I just wanted to use exactly what you gave me.
Right, of course.
But if the cell is formatted with these kind of things, then yeah, it could drive that. Um, so it gave some charts. Let's see.
Oh, learning distribution over the month. I like it.
I didn't like the result as much with this one.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not as clearly defined what it's actually telling us.
yeah, and so
Yeah,
earlier when I did it, this is how it turned out.
yeah,
The only difference is I did say go there, but I don't think that really matters.
yeah,
But it did give these again, and
yeah.
that definitely could have something to do with how you formatted the file.
Yeah, and the numbers are a little different. Like the overall completion rate was 90 and 91 in Gemini, and this is 80 7 and 89. And
Yeah.
our metrics are 91 and 90. So it's interesting, like what our data is already telling us based on our system and how these spit it out, how it's a little different. It makes
Yeah.
me wonder what's happening if there is a cell that's blank. Is it making up, like, is it making up data to go in that cell, or is it just not
No.
in the calculation?
But if it were me, I would either put 0 or
Mhm.
like dot
Mhm.
or the slash or something just to
Mhm.
have it completely filled
Yeah.
out. I don't think it's that. Again, that's another reason I started with Gemini, because I expected Gemini to do better with this, only because it's Google and it's integrated with Google Sheets. So it's already like ahead in understanding
Mhm.
that dynamic.
Yeah.
Where ChatGPT, yeah, you can do things and analyze data, but I don't know. I just feel like the result in Gemini was a lot better. And this is so much better than it used to be. I mean, for a while we were like, come on, Google, you got to do something, because they were very slow at releasing more and more tools, right? Which is okay. I think they were just being conservative with what they were doing. But now with this Gemini Advance, this 2.0 Flash, it's really making it a change. And I will certainly give you the directions that I wrote for this, and you can do with that what you want and keep adding to that and change things. Um, because you're the one that's going to know if the results are what you were looking for, right? I'm just kind of guessing based off
Yeah.
of the information I had.
I know
Um,
in Chat GPT, underneath the prompt where you're asking it originally, there is an analyze data kind of button. And then there's also, when you go into the Explore GPTs, there is
mhm.
a data analyst GPT that you can put into your sidebar. And I'm curious what the difference between those two things are, if you know.
um, let's look at it. So there's I'm in the Explorer GPTs now. So data analyst, you said?
Yeah,
Oh, whoops, there it was. Data analysis and report AI or advanced. These are built by other people.
yeah, okay.
That's the difference. So the one that you're seeing in the search bar is ChatGPT's internal.
Well, the data analyst I have shows that it's by ChatGPT. That's
Okay.
interesting. Okay.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
So,
if you go to Explorer GPTs and type in data analysis, there's a bunch of them to choose from.
oh, I'm sure there's, I'm sure there's a ton of them.
It's like going to the App Store and they'll have the Apple Store, but it's the Apple Store by, I don't know, Bob. And then there's the Apple Store by
Yeah.
Apple, so it's like,
Yeah. All right. So can you guys see my screen now?
yep.
Okay. So there's the, down here is an analyze data, right
Mhm.
here. But
Yeah, and
there's,
that's just a function of ChatGPT.
yeah,
So, um, U.com has something similar, like they have genius mode, smart mode, research mode. So
yeah.
basically, you're giving ChatGPT a heads up by letting them know your sole purpose is to analyze data in this.
Okay.
Like it doesn't have to guess, it's just
Yeah.
it knows. So that's one thing.
And then this is the data analyst,
And
chat,
that's
the GP, and this
separate.
is by ChatGPT. So is it different than the
That's
other?
different. Mhm.
Okay.
That's an actual agent.
Okay.
So why don't we should try that though and see
Okay.
what happens with it. Data analyst. See if I can find it on mine because I have the same file. That way we know.
And is there a way to prompt ChatGPT or Gemini, like whichever one you're using, is there a way to prompt it to have it check itself to make sure it's not hallucinating?
You could just ask it that.
And
Yeah.
it will give you a,
Yeah,
okay.
you could just say, please make sure all these um numbers are accurate. Nothing was replaced if the information was missing, or you can even put that in your instructions. Um, I want to do the exact same file so we could just
Yeah.
really see.
And the same instructions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even giving it instructions. I'm just
Oh,
putting
you're
it
just
right
putting it in to
into,
see what it comes up with?
yeah,
Okay. I like it.
because we want to see what their data analysis can do. And if we can see how they built this and it does something we like, then we could take that and put that into our own agent. I'm
Mhm.
all about not reinventing the wheel, right? You know, if somebody else has already figured it out.
Oh, yeah. And this is telling us what each column is and what
Yeah,
it
which
thinks
doesn't
that
really give us
column
anything.
is. Well, but it does, though. It tells us that it really does understand what data I'm providing, right?
That's true.
Yeah. I think there is value there.
From here, what we could do, let me do this because I don't want to lose our spot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let me go in
Like, I
here,
see what you're
copy
doing.
the instructions,
Mm-hmm.
and then tell it that. I don't think I would need to upload it again, so I'm not going to, but if we need to, then we'll just deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, you'll need your instructions because you are looking for something
Oh,
particular.
yeah, yeah. But I'm also looking for the things that I don't know what I'm looking for, right? Like,
Yeah.
help me understand, like, what's the story here? What should I be pointing out as, something that is important that
Mhm.
maybe my eye is missing?
Yeah, and so like I did in your instructions, I asked it for the customer success manager's point of view. You could also ask for sales, marketing, HR. Like you could ask all of those specific questions.
Yeah.
Oh, look, this is interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
It still has these are
So
kind of
different.
off,
Yeah. It's different. Yeah.
but this is better.
Mm-hmm.
All of these look better than they, so this mode or this GPT definitely did help it handle the information better. Still needed your directions, of course. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a
there's so much
lot.
in this one that it's all like cramped up.
Yeah.
I think that's that same file that goes on like forever that I sent you. um
Yeah.
and then the completion over time, like this is
Oh,
pretty
that's
good.
interesting. Yeah, that
Mhm.
is very interesting. I'm sure you could correlate that to a day of the week, right? Like maybe Monday
Uh-huh.
or a bigger hit. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and so theirs is 87 and 76, which is
Which is not
not the
accurate.
same. I think our figures were more correct in
Yeah,
Gemini.
yeah,
Um, but there still is some information here. So what I would do is look at this and say, if in here I saw like, oh, I didn't even think about this, I would just copy that and put that into my instructions in the other
yeah.
one.
Oh,
Um,
makes
next
total
steps.
sense.
Do you see specific breakdowns? Do you want to analyze trends for different roles? Would a comparison to past months' performance help? I mean, the more data, the better. And they're asking about any specific KPIs you need for your
Will you,
leadership.
will you
So,
ask it that fourth question? Is like, do you
sure.
want suggestions for improving engagement?
Micro deadlines, gamify the process. That's always a good one. Weekly progress emails, leaderboards. That's the gamify. Completion perks, mandatory manager check-ins, custom role-based content, self-paced options, adaptive learning paths. So there's some really good suggestions here.
Interesting.
It just doesn't handle the numbers quite as well, but it
Yeah,
does have good insight. So that's
very good
something for
insight.
you to note. Like even
Yeah,
if you started with the data analysis in Gemini, you could still come to ChatGPT and get insights.
yeah,
Or the other thing, like I said, is just taking some of this and making it knowledge for Gemini, like
Yeah.
put it into their instructions.
Will you ask it what we could learn from this data?
Everybody's catching up later in the month when they know
Yeah.
the deadline is looming, huh?
I don't know how I would never do such a thing. This is really interesting.
Yeah, mid-month reminders.
Mhm.
Um, I love the actionable takeaways. So
I do.
sometimes it's just like, oh, here's an idea. Well, that's great, but how do I
How do
implement
I
that
implement
idea?
that? Yeah,
And
I like
that's,
this for sure. So it seems like there's value in each tool, in each GPT, right? Whether it's Gemini
yep.
or this, in terms like Gemini probably provides more accurate data, but this maybe provides more insight and takeaways.
Hmm.
Maybe Gemini does the same thing. I don't know. We didn't really
It
dive into
probably
that
will
much.
if
Yeah.
we take this information and go back and say to add it in.
Yeah.
It's just another
So
reminder of like each one is good at different things,
yeah,
right?
no,
And there really
exactly.
is not one tool, even though we all
Yeah.
want this magic tool, right?
Yeah.
That can do everything. But
Well, and that's been my challenge, right? Is trying to understand where do I go for what? Like, what is the sweet spot for each of these GPTs, right?
mhm,
Um,
that's why I tried to create at least where it was now in that
yeah,
document I shared with you guys yesterday about that's February 2025, right? So next month that can change, but
yeah,
that's from AI too. So you can ask any
yeah,
of the tools,
yeah.
hey, um, are you better at data analysis or, I mean, I don't think if you ask it, should I go to GPT from Gemini, what you'll get, but
Yeah.
there's ways to ask for the
Okay.
information.
Interesting. That's really good. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And I'll send you those instructions too, so you can just build upon them.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have a paid count for you.com anymore. Um, but that tool, they had an agent for writing instructions for agents, which was really cool.
Oh,
There
interesting.
may be that also in ChatGPT. I haven't searched. But yeah, just there were some other things there with security and things, just like with DeepSeek. I think it's a great tool, but can't feel comfortable like telling people to go use it yet because
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the security. It could be totally fine, but I'm
Yeah.
not, and I get really good results from it, but I feel responsible to not just say get out there and go use it because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Good.
let's see here. Marikar, did you have something you wanted to share?
Oh, if you want, I have one. I have the
Oh, you still have the u.com one?
you.com.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Um, but just letting you know that there are options there. You could also go to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, wherever, and say, "Hey, I'm trying to create an agent or a GPT that does these things," and paste your email in there. I mean, that's literally all I started with was your email.
Yeah.
And so the bare minimum I got out was pretty good, but then I could see, even not knowing your context, what was missing and what needed to be added.
Yeah.
But you would do best at your own agent because you know
Yeah.
exactly what you're looking for.
And so it seems like ChatGPT, you can continue to ask additional questions about the same data. If it's Gemini, do you have to do it all at the same
Gemini, you can
time?
do the same.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay,
yeah,
good.
with this advanced, it's really truly is more advanced than it was. It's not just a
Yeah.
name, actually is more advanced because what I thought was interesting with Gemini, the last version before advanced, you could access the internet. And I'm thinking, well, this is Google. Like, don't you go to Google and look things up? Like, that was really strange to me, but I know they were being conservative with like security and, you know, all the things because new tools and everything were coming out so fast. And there was, you know, pushback
Mhm.
on some people and some of the companies. And so
Yeah.
they've just been much more careful with their advancement.
Okay. Good. This is
But they do have, I mean, it's Google, so they know data, they know, which is why I started there. You surely could have started with ChatGPT if you wanted to. I just,
yeah. I have the paid version in ChatGPT, so that's where I tend to go. But if
yep,
there's value, and obviously I would do this work through a paid version just because of this. I scrub all the sensitive data out, but I still feel like I want some level of protection
yeah,
in
you
what
should.
I'm putting
We
in.
all
Yeah.
should, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's getting
Yeah.
like harder and harder to have anymore is some level of protection.
Yeah.
Um, and it depends on the workspace you work in. Are you a Microsoft Office, which I think
I'm
you guys
office.
are?
Yeah. Well,
So could Copilot do some similar things? You can create agents in Copilot. So it's really when I give you the instructions, take it and put it in all the tools you have access to. Copilot, of course, is going to be the most secure because you're running off of Microsoft and it's enclosed system. ChatGPT, if you're not paid, you're definitely not secure. If you are paid, I can't say 100%.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, you have to depends on the kind of work you're doing, the kind of information you have, like what it is you're putting out there. And that's why there's no one answer for everybody. So
Yeah.
people will often come and say, "Well, what should my tech stack be?" And it's like, "Okay, I have like 20 questions before I can start recommending because
Yeah.
are you all in the United States? Are you in different countries? Do you have a large team? Do you have, you know, there's so many things to consider. But it's always going to be more secure if you're like within Google Workspace, so using Gemini or Microsoft Copilot inside of your Microsoft
Good to know.
Office.
Yeah.
That's going to be the most. And Jasper by itself is more secure. It's
Oh,
separate, um, but it's a marketing platform, so it
right.
doesn't do all the things that it does, but that's not what its focus is.
Yeah.
Its focus is marketing, and it's amazing at that. But if you're trying to do data analysis and that sort of thing, I wouldn't say
Yeah.
go jump on that train. So,
Okay. Good to know.
yeah.
Thank you.
Um, Anybody else have any questions, or everybody's just ready to go try working on some more agents, aren't they? Yeah. Candy, I will email you the instructions I have, and then you can create that in whatever tool you want. And I would just see what you get from that. And
Yeah.
if you like the
And so
insights,
those agents are reusable, like you would just
yep.
reuse it every month. And then
Mhm.
what about like the additional questions that you ask? Will it remember all of those? Or do you need to do that each time separately?
Each time will be different. So if there's a question that it gives you that you like and you want it to ask you every time, put it in the instructions.
Oh, in the original instructions. Yeah, that
I
makes
didn't know
total
what
sense.
follow-up questions you wanted, so I just asked it to
Yeah,
come up with follow-up
of
questions.
course. Of
So,
course. No, that's perfect.
so
Okay.
if you see, okay, I want these 5 questions answered every time, put it back in the original instructions.
Yeah.
Anything that's in your instructions is going to happen every time you use it.
Okay. Good to know.
It's actually really fun, and it's like figuring out problem solving little mysteries, you know, like how can I get it to do what I want it to do?
Yeah.
I'm
Perfect.
not sure how to ask this question, so forgive me, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to think about how to share gems or GPTs with clients, right?
Mhm.
So if I create a gem in my workspace in Google, let's say I
Then
have
you can't
Gemini,
share it.
thing, I can't share it. So
Only
I
within
would,
workspaces right now.
so I'd want to create it within the client's
Yeah,
workspace
so if they
for
had a
them.
generic account like info at or something else that they could give
Yeah,
you access to, you would create it there. That way they
okay,
own it. It's in their workspace.
great.
You can share it amongst each other. ChatGPT is a little easier to share conversations and all of that, but again, it's also more open than Gemini or Copilot or
It
something.
sounds best to create a gem for a client in their workspace. Like that seems to be the cleanest way that I can think of in my
Yes, because otherwise you're going to have to give them the instructions to do so in their own
Right.
workspace, which they're not going to want to do that. But
Yeah.
unless they're super secure, then maybe it's easy enough to make a loom, give them the written instructions, and it takes them 5 minutes to make it because you've shown them how. So,
Okay. And then for data analysis, am I understanding, because it sounded like there was different percentages that came out versus ChatGPT and Gemini, and I know that we're the source of truth. So I guess part of frustration, it seems too strong of a word, but that's the word I'm
well,
going,
that's,
is
yeah,
that it sounds like, the AI is doing a lot behind the scenes, right? Of like taking all this information and putting it into graphs or whatnot. But it's not necessarily like you wouldn't go to the bank with it. You wouldn't say like, this is for
exactly.
sure the number.
Never,
Never.
ever.
Do you think it'll ever get to
I don't
that?
know.
Okay, I was just
I
curious.
kind of hope not because that still requires us.
Yeah,
It's for us, we call it the 80-20 rule, 80% AI and 20% humans.
yeah.
The way we teach, we can probably get you to 90-95%, but there always has to be the source of truth, the human involvement, the context, the check. And so if you are expecting AI to do it 100%, then those are the people that are using the data that's 89% and 87 when it's supposed to be 90 and 91 because they didn't check the actual numbers.
The source of truth. And so then do you go back to the prompt and say, because that's what I've done in the past of like, you clearly didn't get the numbers right. Like, I've asked them to like revisit it or say, like, I know for sure 19 people came to us from Google Ads and you're showing 0, and then
Right.
they've recalculated and they go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, X, Y, and Z. And then it
I
goes back and fixes itself.
For me personally, I wouldn't use it then, not for that part. So just like I
Okay.
was saying to Candy, even if you wanted to use GPT, do the math part in Gemini and then bring it over. Because if you're having to coach it on the
Yeah,
numbers
that's what
and
I
hey, you're
had
not
to
doing it
do.
right, like to me, I'm like, um, I don't want to have to do that extra work. I would, since the numbers matched on Gemini, I would go with that and try to do as much as I could in there. If I was seeing that Gemini wasn't giving me the same types of insights I liked from ChatGPT, then it would just be a two-step process. So I would take the original output from Gemini, put it into whatever my ChatGPT agent was, and get the rest of it and call it a day.
Mhm. Okay.
One of them is not going to do all of it. And that's, again,
That's the
what we're trying to
takeaway.
get it to do. And it's just not going to happen.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of the validation, right? As you're doing this.
Yeah. Which is why we test them all. Like we did the exercise yesterday of looking at, oh, this one was really good at this and this one was not. And it's hard to keep up with it all, but that's why we have this community too, because we are looking at it all the time so we can help eliminate some of that frustration.
That's why
Or
I'm here, for
oh,
that specific
if
reason.
you go to, there's an AI for that. There's like almost 30,000 AI tools. I don't know 30,000 AI tools. Um, Certainly there's got to be someone that has looked at all of them. I don't really know, but nobody can be great at all of those things. So we try to pick the ones that we know will work most consistently and work most consistently with current businesses. So people that have a Google Workspace or people that are working at Microsoft or whatever it may be, we are trying to narrow it down, not because Google's not paying us, and neither is ChatGPT, but we're trying
No.
to figure out what's going to cover the most,
Okay,
what's going to do
great.
the most for you. So
This is such a helpful class. Thank you, Candy, for being our example.
it's
Oh,
great when
yeah.
someone comes with some data too that we
Yeah,
need
I
to
mean,
look
it
at.
really sets off all of the things that it makes it difficult because you're like, I want to do all of this stuff, but there's still so much to learn.
Yeah, and just remember, you can always update your instructions. You can see what you can do. Ask it a crazy question that you think there's no way it's going to be able to know this, and it might. Just it's all about creativity, really, when it comes to these prompts and seeing where it trips up. So then you actually know how far you can push it. So, yeah. I mean, I enjoy it because I'm a problem solver. Like, that's my thing. And I like to research. And so for me, I'm like, ooh, how can I make it break and really confuse this genius thing, And that makes me happy when I can. So small wins, right?
Exactly. I was gonna say.
Um, yeah, so again, we have that webinar next week that will be during this time. So it'll be all about AIing the marketing part of your business. Or if an agency comes for them, it'll be AIing their agency. So there'll be a lot of good insights with that. And that is free and open to anyone. So again, if you know anyone that you think might be interested or you have a group you want to share it in, totally free to do that. And next week in class, we'll be talking about voice, which is a really good one. So, yes, we have all these tools, but we don't want it to sound like AI. We want it to sound like Candy or Charis or Marka or whoever. And that will be what we talk about next week. So, look forward to that. And if you have any questions or need anything, just let us know in the community, of course, and we can help answer things there. And Candy, I'm going to send you an email right now so I don't forget to give you the instructions.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great day.
you. All right,
You
bye-bye.
too. See you next week.
Sounds good.